Hello everyone. If you've noticed already, I'm talking a bit more of a personal manner towards you, and that's very simple. If you haven't clued in from this episode's title, I did a mistake while recording some other stuff. I turned off the mic, and after like 3 or 4 hours of Elden Ring and continuing on my journey, I looked back onto OBS and noticed that, oh, I forgot to turn the mic on, which means you could not hear my voice at all. Whoops. And, you know, looking back, and after looking back on it, this is also why there was, to those who, you know, have been watching me for a bit and noticed that I tend to have a schedule of uploading always on Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday. This is why, to those that, you know, noticed that pattern, were like, where was the video on Wednesday? This is why I came up onto this part, and this is the part that I knew I was, oh crap, this is the muted one that I did. And I was thinking of ways. It's like, okay, how do I do this? Do I just leave me with no audio in? Or do I maybe, you know, sit down and watch sit down and rewatch the recording of myself and try and, you know, keep some dialogue up to keep you a bit interested. To which, ask me if you prefer it this way, or would you prefer it if I'd stayed quiet, if you find the more outside voice, so to say, kind of distracting from what's going on. And to me personally, I'm not kind of good. I don't think I'm kind of good at engaging. In fact, I'm already doing like separate takes already, non-scripted, to try and be interesting. So this is like third time rewatching this thing, you know, trying to have dialogue that's just of interest. I think I talk a lot better when I'm in the action and a bit light. I even went as far as getting tea to try and, you know, liven up a bit, but I'm not that good. But to be fair, the footage probably not helping me because it's just a dull capturing of me farming the best spot in the game to farm 4 levels and runes, which is this little spot here full of Albinaurics. Poor Albinaurics. When they're not being, you know, genocided for being born outside of grace, like they are in the lore, they're being genocided by us Tarnished for the convenient number of wounds. But, oh well, that's life for you, I guess, in a video game. The misfortune of being a mob used for grinding. On the topic of, you know, rewatching the stuff, I'll admit to you, going back onto my previous video and seeing like the very almost disinteresting sounding tone of mine and hushed voice, I really didn't like it going through it, and I was just going through it thinking, it's like, God, I sound boring, I have to do something later on to, you know, sound interesting and stuff like that. It's also because the reason why sometimes, if you were wondering why did I actually said this, why did I sometimes talk in a hushed tone, is because I live in a house with other people, and I had a very bad habit of playing the game at very late, like midnight times late, sometimes even up to like 2 or 3 a.m. And so, you know, I would have to pipe down a bit and go, oh, and talk this quietly. Can you hear me? Can you understand what I'm saying? No. Yeah, and that's the thing, and you'll be glad to hear this, although it won't be in effect immediately, because a lot of these recordings were done like a while ago. This one, for example, is like almost a year ago, and the rule I made for myself after that is that, going back on it, was if it's midnight or late night, I am not recording at all. Which I broke at least once on the second playthrough. Alright, we'll get to that in a moment about the second playthrough. I broke at least once, but then after that, I'm just gonna follow a strict rule of, okay, Is it late? Yeah, it's late. Okay. No recording whatsoever. And no playing of the game I want to play, even if I want to, because, you know, I think you'd rather hear me talk when I'm a bit more clear of speech, which I don't think I'm doing a good job because I mumble a lot and try and bring up topics which you probably don't care about anyway. But as you saw, I went over to D. I went over to D's twin to see what would happen. And after giving him the armor and then reloading the area, he just disappeared. And then I went back to the Nameless Sea, or to the upper region, after those two gargoyle assholes. But it took me a while to eat them. I noticed that I missed this part out, and there's a lot of ants and a lot of the queen. And other than a nice fair bit of runes I got, I also got an incantation out of this, which I'll get here soon, although not on this attempt. Though I got pushed into a corner and mauled by ants. Oops. But yeah, I then came back and decided to play a bit more smart and use Loretta's great bow, which I gotta say, I completely abandoned just using regular bows and used Loretta's great bow all the time. Which, well, it definitely suited the fantasy I was going for, but I gotta say, I think maybe the bows would have been a bit more efficient on resources overall, but then again, who cares? Although one thing that did kind of bug me looking back on it was, no pun intended, was that if you look at it, as I charge a shot onto this ant and shoot it, do you see that little explosion? Don't mind the fact that all the ants just gather around there. In fact, because of that, if you watch closely now, there we go, rev up the shot. Pew! Pretty decent sized explosion. And yet, none of the ants get killed. I mean, none of the ants around take damage. Which, I look back on this because after I was done with this playthrough, I then made a second playthrough to catch up on things that I missed, or wish I had done differently. And I was using one of the other incantations, the dragon cult vault, one of the dragon cult incantations, which, not dragon communion, not the ones where you materialize a dragon's limb and do stuff with it, the one instead where you just simply, like, you know, conjure lightning. I used lightning spear, the base one, and that one has a slight AoE effect. If there's mobs bunched up together, you can actually hit multiple of them. And then I'm like, looking back at this, I'm going like, why does Loretta's great bow not do that? Maybe they changed it, who knows. This is a patch from a year ago, so maybe there has been a change, but I don't know that. But hey, other than that, I get a bunch of runes, Newman's runes, so even if you're not here for the incantation that's around here, this is a good spot for some easy runes if you're, you know, passing by. As for the incantation, I'm going to be nearing it and trying to be as stealthily with these ants, which I probably don't need to do that because it's just as easy as stopping their charges, just swinging the R1 once. And I come back here to check back that if there was anything. Yeah, this is it's kind of difficult to bring up interesting topics when you should really be talking about what's going on the screen. And here I am checking. It's like, okay, what do I level next? Which I've probably just leveled Vigor, because I had an issue for a while where I'm kind of OCD-ish, and I prefer like even numbers, like 20, 25, or well, they're not even numbers, full stop numbers, so to say. Numbers that seem like a good stopping points, but hey, here's the incantation. Elden stars. It's not good, by the way. I heard it's very crap. But we can read it none the same. creates a stream of golden shooting stars that assail the area. It is said that long ago the Greater Will sent a golden star bearing a beast into the lands between, which would later become the Elden Ring. I could just spoil what this is, but because I have a very anti-spoiler policy, even if I am ahead, I'm just not gonna say what it is and just respect the people who are you know, perhaps experiencing the game for the first time through me. And here is where D is. Or where his stuff is. He's gone. He's pretty much gone on because I killed Fia for him. And yeah. But other than that, we get his weapon now, this time. Sword forged by compounding silver and gold, a sacred weapon to hunt those who live in death, deals holy damage. The inseparable twins found solace in the Golden Order, the only institution not to revile them as accursed beings. Read that a bit badly and stuttered, but yeah, quick tip on that weapon actually. For a build like mine, which is a hybrid of intelligence and faith, it is really good actually. For niche in use in that it's really good against skeletons, the enemies that you knock them down and then they revive. This makes it that you give them the Holy Order effect where you just swing at them and when you kill them they stay down. And against death birds also, that have actually very low holy resistance, as I learned, it does high damage against them. Very good, in fact. I used this on second playthrough, upgraded it to full, and just made a joke of the late game death birds. But I didn't do that this playthrough, so you'll get to see some of my pain in time. As for what I was doing here, if you noticed while I was rambling on about the sword, I was looking up at a body that was on a pole, up on a pole, hanging there on the underground roadside or subterranean showing grounds, and I was just thinking, how do I get there? And I thought that's like, up above, and I did find actually the manhole, and you do go through there, but I'm only going to give one clue about that, and late game, but yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, how do I get through there? And I even, like, was going back to that manhole several times, and, like, trying different things. It's like bringing out a big weapon, using a big smashy incantation like Dragon Claw, or even just bringing out, like, a big hammer, and even using Ashes of War, like Golden Pratfall, to try and see if I could, like, open it up by force. But no, it's just a thing that you come back to in the late game. That's all I'm gonna say about it. But yeah. Well, I guess having broken my no spoilers rule, you can probably already guess that's just what's gonna happen. But I'll leave it to that. On another topic of my second playthrough, which I had taken note of while playing second playthrough, I didn't say it this one, but I gotta say, in my opinion, going through Lindell in comparison to all the other legacy dungeons like Volcano Manor or Stormvale or Ray Lucaria, Lindell's kind of boring in my experience. Whenever I look back on it now, later on, I always think, like, it's kind of dull, actually. And I can't really put it on the finger with it, but I boiled it down to pretty much the environment doesn't interest me that much. It doesn't seem interesting in the way you traverse it. You just kind of walk around. And in comparison, for example, in Stormvale, the first one, I really felt Stormvale actually had, like, is the best one in terms of the way it's done, because first off, I didn't know this, but we actually have two ways you can go into it. The creepy, tall, lanky, hollow-looking dude that you can talk to, Gostok, as his name is. You actually have an option with him. You can either tell him to open the gates, you know, but yeah, you go talk to him, and he suggests that you sneak instead around the ramparts, and you can do that. You can oblige with his request, or you can just say and be adamant and stubborn about it and go, no, I want to go for the main gate, and you can do that, and you know, and face the dozens of guards stationed outside with ballistas pointed at the entrance as well. But yeah, then first off, Lindell doesn't seem like it had that choice. it seems like you only get through one way into it, and then after that, it's pretty one note. How you explore it, you just walk around, and walk around, jump around, and that's it. Meanwhile, with Stormvale, it had a lot of like these hidden spots, once I felt like, but not only that, it also had. It was just more interesting to me to interact with. It's like as pretty as Lindell is. As pretty as Lindell is as an environment, I did not feel interested, so to say, in traversing it as per se as Stormvale or even Rail Lucaria for that matter. And I do think that Lindell is like the weakest of them all in general. Yeah. Although that doesn't mean that it's devoid of stuff. I will say this though, the underground portion is probably the most interesting because that's the kind of one that's have like all those like little side routes you can take, these little paths you can do, these shortcuts you can open up. Lindell has that, but I never felt like, more so than an environment looking pretty, as I said, more so than an environment looking pretty, I think what really elevates a good level or area in a game is not how it looks, but rather how you as the player interact with it. How do you move about it? How do you traverse it? What ways do you find around it? And what paths are there? How are the enemies stationed? Stuff like that. And I always felt that with Lindell, it was kind of the most interesting part to Lindell, at least to the upper region for me, was only the only like the first rampart after you kill the Dragon Tree Sentinel. That was the only part that kind of seemed the most interesting, because you have like that one broken down gargoyle that's just breathing fire at you, and you have to like jump down to the lower portions to avoid him. You can just run past him, but it's a bit risky. But then after that, it felt like a pretty simple, just walk around a barren city, and that was it. I mean, there are a lot of enemies, but I never felt like for the place where in the lore it was supposed to be like the most sacred area out of all of them, I felt like there was very few actually guards protecting the city in general, which is kind of rich considering there was an Earth Tree avatar. There's all these knights around, but I don't know, Stormvale felt more guarded because there were patrols around it. There were patrols within the city. There were all those banished knights just patrolling around. There were a bunch of those other guards with the red hoods that were standing watch and vigil. There were ballistas all around, and in Lindell there was just nothing. I mean, it's a pretty look. I mean, for example, this shot here. This is a pretty amazing shot, but it's nothing really. It's nothing really. Other than being able to walk up onto that, Lindell just felt boring to me. Although, I'm probably going to get comments saying your commentary is boring. Which, fair enough. I'm not the best commentator. I am kind of awkward about it. It's a bit weird where, like, you're trying to talk. You're talking to essentially an imaginary audience. And you're trying to, like, bring up, like, interesting stuff that you probably don't... the audience probably doesn't care about overall, and doesn't help that I utter a lot because I'm very awkward about it. I'm always trying to think like, what do I bring out of my ass just to get a quick chuckle out of you. On one note, though, you might have noticed there was an item saying on top of that weird little spear. Embedded in the wall. Yeah, you can actually get that as a weapon. That was... To which I gotta say, it's kind of funny how you see the actual thing buried into the sea, and it's freaking long, about as big as the Eiffel Tower, but then you can pick it up and it magically turns into this little dainty thing that the actual dragon could like use it for a toothpick to pick their teeth with. Well, I will say this one thing though, because of that obsession with looking for the manhole of mine that I had for a bit, it did make it that it's like, is there anything that I missed in this portion of the sea? Or I don't think I actually explored it. It's like, yeah, no, I didn't actually explore Lindell, the upper region of Lindell, that much. In fact, I went straight to the underground because I always assume it's gonna be like, I guess this is the optional area, and so I'll leave the main area for now. And come back to it once I'm done with the optional, which I guess the sewers are optional in that sense. I mean, technically, a lot of things in Elden Ring are actually optional. You can technically finish the game without ever having to kill Godric, and instead you can at least kill, you can actually, all that requires is that you kill, sorry for my little stutter there, I was trying to think how to describe it. You can just kill, 2 shard bearers to get into Lindell. It doesn't matter who. There's Renala, there's Godric, there's Radon, and there's Whiteheart, and it's literally just take your pick which of the 4 you want. As for how many parts there are going to be to this, looking back on it, I did about 3 to 4 hours. I cut out most of it because most of it was me just running around Lindell and going like, where's this interest of a manhole? That manhole. I'm gonna out of all the things I'm probably gonna remember the most, that one little golden manhole is probably the sewer hatch, whatever manhole. I think they're called manholes. It's probably the one thing that's going to be the most distinct to me in memory. But I'd assume about like 3 parts at most, which to those of you that probably don't like me talking to you in this manner, well, this is the first episode, so you can just say it's like, nah, I think I'd rather have you shut up. In which case, okay. Fair enough. And there I am, just looking at, like, how do I get up there? I probably would have not missed so much. There's actually a lot that after this first playthrough, I noticed that I missed quite a bit. And I'm like, oh fuck. And I started New Game Plus and I had to progress the game to get there. But yeah, I guess the lesson there is just that you check you check things no matter how many times to be sure that, everything is ready and in order. Or you found everything. Playing this a bit badly. And dodging it quite badly. And stun lock for the win. Checking some areas, nothing interesting, and then I go down to here. here and open up a shortcut to the to the slums of Lindell. So nothing too interesting. That does the first part. First part of this. So yeah, well, I guess I'll just shut up for now then, and see you guys next week then. Goodbye.